nice to hear nice things about you on a Sunday morning. That's why I sent that intro. Right, okay. So what I just recommend is that if everybody could have a pen and paper handy, because it will need some writing. Your Nikhil's told that we have to do the session on evaluation, so that can't happen without writing. For anybody who doesn't have it, you got to store it all in your mind. Right? Okay, let's get started. Maybe I'll just ask you, when you think of evaluation, right, could you tell me how it felt when you received some valuable feedback from someone at some point in time in some meeting? Anybody? How did that feel?
Not very comfortable.
Okay.
Felt excited so that you have something to work on.
Okay. What else?
It depends on how it is given. The same feedback can be given in different ways.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Sipika. Yeah. Okay.
I thought I did not actually think about this. It was not even in my mind.
Okay. Yeah. Something that you didn't think of. What's your name?
Swapnil.
Oh, right. Swapnil. Okay.
If it's given constructively, it feels like someone cleared a blind spot from the window.
Right. What's your name?
Satyendra.
Oh, right. I only saw heads from behind, so I'm going to put the names now.
Evaluation means that how effective you are communicating your feedback to the other person. That is, it's like a sandwich. I didn't know that. It's like I thought that evaluation was just head on to that. But then how you articulate and how you present, that is the most significant art.
Amazing. Rajiv.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Constructive feedback from someone always brings in a great respect and as well as trust of the other person.
Amazing. What's your name?
Ravi.
Ravi.
I think you get to know more about your strength, which you can play at,
Mhm.
and also area of improvement. Whatever the way whoever gives it, it's always good to get to know about the area of improvement and take them seriously and work on it.
Right.
That's what I think.
Self-awareness. What's your name?
Praveen.
Praveen. Okay, that's great. Some amazing responses. Now let me just flip the question a little bit. This is when you got a valuable feedback. Of course, the way it's delivered matters. But how did you feel when somebody came and gave you a feedback and it didn't add any value at all? It's like, how did that make you feel? Yeah, some of you are afraid to respond without being rude, isn't it?
Confused.
Confused, yeah. What are you even saying? Yeah, correct. I know. It's like you walk into office and say it was horrible traffic and someone said I reached in 10 minutes. I know what you mean. Anybody else? How does it feel when somebody does it? Yes.
To be honest, at times it feels like a waste of time because I put so
Yeah.
much effort to do something.
Correct. Thank you for being honest. Waste of time, absolutely. I feel it very often. Like, oh, I wish something better was coming. Anything else? You can be honest. Doesn't go outside this Audi. Nikhil confirm that.
Does it really need it?
Right. Do I need that? What's your name?
Vijay.
Vijay. Okay. I'm going to try and get the names, but I might forget some. So if I ask you again, please don't be offended. Great. So we now know that how it feels when we get good feedback and how it feels when it's just somebody took the 3 minutes, gave a feedback, but end of it you're like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you mean. So when we step into the role of evaluators or when we do evaluation, there are 3 things that I feel we should keep in mind. And anything I say today is going to be very basic. It's not going to be anything that has big jargons because I feel like sometimes we overlook simplicity in order to try and be so much more. So this is, as for me, when I started out as a Toastmaster for everybody here, I'm an absolute accidental Toastmaster. So I didn't walk into the room as a guest thinking, I'm going to watch out and become Toastmasters. For some of you who've been in Toastmasters for a while, you would know that there's something called a distinguished club program. I'm sure your president knows that. And for that you need 20 members. So the club that I'm part of had 19 back then and I'm the 20th member. So you realize I'm an absolute accidental Toastmaster. Didn't come here to think how to become a great public speaker, but then I learned the tricks. All of that Shilpa mentioned was my first year in Toastmaster when I was contesting, and that's why I kind of learned something as it came on. So I figured that there are 3 basics of an evaluation. The first one, I call them the ABC. The A, to me, was the most important as a Toastmaster. It's to add value. Very basic. So even if you give somebody just one area of improvement at the end of their speech, it's okay. If you figure only one highlight from their speech, that's also okay. What I've sometimes realized is that we get into putting things in a structure. So we're like 3 highlights, 2 areas of improvement. No matter what, I'm going to pull it out even if the speech didn't have it. Not required. Because my motive, if I was to evaluate anybody, is to do just this. If the speaker implemented what I told the speaker, their speech should be minimum 1% better than what it was. That's enough. But if that's not happening, then there's a problem, right? So that's the A, that we add value to the speaker, genuinely, not to show that I'm a flawless evaluator, but I genuinely care for the speaker to be better. That's it. The B, which I think is very important in Toastmaster, is to bring the speaker back on stage. Our job as an evaluator is not to scare the speaker off so that they never come back on stage. I've been in such places, right, where the evaluator comes and tells you, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, your speech was a disaster. And the next time you're like, should I even give a speech? That's not our purpose. Not at all. Because think of it selfishly. If you didn't do it encouragingly enough and the speaker never came back again on stage, what's the point of your evaluation? They didn't implement anything you said. They didn't get a chance. So let's be constructive, rightly said by a lot of people. Let's not be a critic. Like we come here and criticize the hell out of that speech. That's not our aim at all. So let's bring the speaker back. That's something we have to keep in mind. And the C, which is a very simple C, but often overlooked when you've done evaluation a couple of times, is to constantly improve as an evaluator. We sometimes forget that. At least in my journey, this is what I've noticed. You're 1 year into Toastmaster, you've seen so many speeches, you've done evaluation, and after that the VP tells you, will you be an evaluator? And you're like, yeah, that's fine. I'll come, give my evaluation, go back. Evaluation needs no work, it needs no effort. Not true. We as evaluators need to improve every single time by keeping some basic parameters. Last time I gave an AOI and I did show how it's done, but my example was not clear to the speaker. Can I try and demonstrate my AOI a little better this time so that the speaker clearly understands it? That's how we constantly, the day you decide that as an evaluator I have nothing to improve on, there's a problem. No matter how many evaluations you've done, there's always something to improve on, right? So that's the C. Now, I did put in some slides, but because they are not working, so we're going to skip that and I'm going to go straight into some things that you can do as an evaluator. So I always break evaluation in 3 parts. Things you can do before evaluation, things you can do during the speech, and things you can do after the speech. So before the speech, that's some simple things. One is know the objective. It's my absolute humble request for anybody taking up evaluation later, please know the objective. Anybody here who doesn't know that every pathway speech has an objective? Looks like everybody does. Sometimes very satisfying when the audience don't raise their hand to a question. So please know the objective. What is your speaker speaking about? And try to know it before the speech as much as possible rather than winging it right during the speech, because that's probably not fair to the speaker. If you did some read up before the speech, that would be helpful, because then you're knowing that what you're exactly assessing on. Now, always you may not be evaluating a speech with an objective. That is, some of you might contest. Contest speeches don't have an objective. They're a generic speech. But then you know that you are going ahead and evaluating a speech which is supposed to meet all the basic elements of public speaking. That's the objective. But let's say this is at your work. So at your work, obviously, it doesn't come, well, we do set up objectives at the beginning of the year, to be fair. But if you're ever in a performance review discussion, you're going to give feedback to a teammate. Just know that what is the objective of that feedback? What is it that the person is trying to do, is going to do out of that? And if you're trying it at home, then please exercise caution. Especially if you're giving feedback on cooking, be very careful. But there also know what the objective is, right? If you're giving feedback to your kids, to your siblings, to your parents, Every feedback has a purpose, so it's always good to know what's the objective, right? So once you know the objective, I'm going to turn this around if it's okay. Have a template is the second thing, right? So when I say have a template, what it means is ahead of your evaluation, whatever is your technique, and I'm going to tell you a few. So you can divide your sheet into how many ever parts you like, but have a template. Now by a template, this is what I mean. There's one part that you want to write things that went well. What went well in this speech? Whatever you liked in this speech. And there's got to be another part where you write down what could have been improved. For both of these, you want to put examples. What I mean by that is, let's say I tell a speaker, and I only heard Vishnu speak, right, because the rest had finished by the time I came in. But from whatever I saw of Vishnu speaking, let's say I wanted to say that, Vishnu, that was a great take on the topic. Then I at least need to tell him why, because I liked that you referenced bands. I liked it was a personal story. So always have an example for whatever you give. Likewise, for your areas of improvement, right? So when you're writing that down, also write examples. Again, sorry Vishnu, I'm picking on you. You're the only one I saw. But I did realize he was moving around a little bit, which is, by the way, very cool, but sometimes a little destructive. So if I were to tell you that, Vishnu, you might want to watch out your stage movement, and then I can tell you you were walking around, why don't you just settle in for a little longer? And I'm just making this up. You don't have to take it seriously, but that's what I mean. Have examples on both sides of your, and you want to write it down that way, or I'll tell you if you not write it down that way also how else, but please write, because otherwise what happens is we come on stage and we go, what's your name? Soumya. So let's say I'm evaluating Soumya, and then I go, Soumya, I really liked your speech, and then I'm trying to figure my own handwriting, the structure of it, what all did I write, where is the example? You don't want to do it. So have a template, divided neat. What else can you have in a template? Specifically for Toastmasters, if you're doing a contest, your club meeting, a summary. A summary is essential. So if you've given 3 points that went well, 2 points that could be better, you want to summarize and write your summary. The last thing you want to do is, in summary, your speech had, think this and this. Oh, sorry, I missed this. That is not very helpful to the speaker, because, what's your name?
Sandhya.
You were the table topic. Yeah, right. Okay. So let's say we're giving her a feedback. What she is keen on is in the summary section, that 10 seconds, those 5 points are what I'm going to take home. And if you've not given those 5 points like specific bullet pointed items, it's very difficult for the speaker. So that's why write your summary. But a summary is a summary and not an essay. So don't expand the summary again. You've already told the speaker you liked their voice modulation because they did 2 characters voice. You liked the content because it had opening body conclusion. You want the speaker to work on their gestures because they were always closing their hands. So in the summary, you can say something like, Madam Speaker, if you could work a little bit on your gesture, topped with your voice modulation and brilliant content, we look forward to speeches. Instead of going, if you could work a little bit on your gestures, which is basically to avoid the class speaker value, then you're repeating your evaluation. And in evaluation, one key thing, do not repeat. Your point is made, your point is explained, you move on to the next point and do a crystal clear summary. Avoid repetition. Nobody likes. It's like your manager telling you, you did everything well, but that day you came to office late. And you did 2 other things well, but that day you came to office late. So you don't want to do that. Now you see how it feels. Just imagine yourself at work and somebody, it's like, that's how it feels. So you don't want to repeat it, right? So obviously have a template. And then the last thing I would say is, specifically, this works in both Toastmasters, outside of Toastmasters. When you think you had to give somebody a feedback, let's say you want to evaluate a speech, you want to give feedback to somebody at work, ask them, do they want you to look at something in particular? The speaker might have a particular thing they're attempting. Like, let's say my sense of humor is not that great. So sometimes in my speeches, I apply humor. Then I might just ask my evaluator, can you specifically see if my humor landed? God forbid it didn't, but yeah, that's what you want to say, right? So you always can ask the speaker, do you want me to look at anything particular? But very important, Please don't get offended if the speaker has nothing particular for you to watch out for. And secondly, don't judge the speaker if they don't have a this person doesn't have anything specific, didn't prepare at all. That may not be true. Maybe they just want you to evaluate the speech overall, right? So don't make judgments. So that's before the speech. What you can do even before the speech started. Now let's talk about during the speech, and that's probably the most important one. First thing, so this is what I noticed in my little span in Toastmasters, right? This is how it works. The speaker comes on stage, the speaker starts speaking, and the evaluator starts writing. So it's like, because you're not even looking at the speaker, you're not even listening to the speaker, you're just writing away to glory. So, let me break a myth for you here. No speaker expects an evaluator to repeat their entire speech. The speaker knows it. They wrote the script. They delivered the speech. So don't take the pressure of writing everything down. Oh my God, if I missed this point. So I've seen some of this happen, right? So let's say there was a speech that was being delivered and the evaluator was writing, and kept on writing. And then the evaluator came on stage and presented the evaluation, and the evaluator went, throughout your speech, I felt like your body language was really missing. You were very stiff on stage. You could have loosened up. So genuine feedback. And this is what happened. In the first half of the speech, the speaker for the first 2 minutes was intentionally stiff because that was part of the speech. And while the evaluator was busy writing that the body language missing, the speaker pulled off one of the best body languages on stage, but the evaluator missed it because he was busy writing. You don't want to do it. You want to listen to this speech. Now you might ask, just now you don't have a template and right, and now you're saying listen to the speech. Well, we do both. But what I'm trying to say is you don't have to frantically write away everything. There are certain things that you need to know. What will you present? Max 3 to 4 highlights, max 3 to 4 AOIs. You cannot fit more than that in 3 minutes, even if you speak faster than Vande Bharat train. Then also you can't, right? So that's all you're looking for. So this is my hack, right? This is what I do. Whenever I look at a speech, I'm happily listening. And what I feel is everything has a benchmark. So there's something called a midpoint. A certain amount of voice modulation, a certain amount of body language, a basic structure of opening, body, conclusion. As long as the speaker is going at the midpoint, I'm not writing those. So if the speaker had just enough voice modulation, great. Just enough body language, great. The minute the speaker goes above the midpoint, excellent voice modulation. Some places you were like, oh wow, that's what I'm writing. Then I'd write voice modulation. Fair. Or let's say humor. Everybody expects in a 7-minute speech, occasionally there will be some humor. But let's say the speaker is just constantly kept it light-hearted. You're laughing and laughing. Humor becomes my highlight. So the minute they go above the midpoint. Likewise, the minute they go below the midpoint is my AOI. So let's say the speaker throughout kept a clasped hand. That's a problem. Then I want to write down and say you want to do an open hand gesture. Let's say the speaker went in absolute monotone throughout. There were 5 characters, all 5 spoke the same way. I don't know how. But yeah, the speaker did that. That's it. So keep your midpoint because the midpoint's just okay. That's just enough. It's like salt in your food. That's just enough. You want to do the ones that are above, they become your highlight. The ones that are below are your areas of improvement. And that's all you need to write. And in that also, there's a technique to write. The technique to write during a speech is now you've got your template, you've segregated however you want to your highlights, your areas of improvement, and this is what you do. Always write a pointer. Voice modulation, character. So in Toastmasters, if you see, there are some basic elements. There's a content. There's an overall content that you're assessing, opening, body, conclusion. Was there a smooth transition? Did they have a message at the end? Did they have a hook statement in the beginning? This is content. So you got the content. Then you got some delivery basic aspects. Voice modulation, body language, eye contact. These are basics of delivery. If you look at a ISC judges ballot, you will get it all. It's all there. And then of course you've got additional things like the speech objective. Was the speech objective met? Second thing is that the speaker asked for something additional, was that met? So you got these additionals, you got your basic. But some speakers might do something absolutely extraordinary. For example, somebody might have done an excellent use of a prop. They got a prop for a speech, and that prop was used exceptionally well. That becomes your highlight. It's not an everyday thing, but can become your highlight. Likewise, they got a big chair like this chair, and they didn't use it at all during the speech. Now that's a problem, and that becomes your areas of improvement. So you can always look out for beyond, right? Beyond that particular. But then what you're doing is just write your header. Voice modulation, one example. Body language, one example. You're not writing every place in the speech where the speaker did great voice modulation. Write one or two. That's enough. That's enough to tell the speaker you're doing it well. If it's an area of improvement, like you want to tell the speaker that your gestures, you showed small like this and you showed far like this, maybe the gestures were inappropriate, right? One example, enough. You can come and say, your gestures didn't feel right because you said small but your hand was here. Enough for the speaker to understand. One example is enough. So pointer, example, pointer, example. That's it. That's enough. When you are writing, this is what I do. I first write everything. Whatever was, as for me, highlight, whatever was for me, AOI. And then, generally in a contest, you get 5 minutes. After the test speaker is over, you get 5 minutes to couple your notes up and then you present. In a club meeting, usually, if there's a prepared speech, then you have table topics and then evaluation, so you get that time. In that, what I do is I put a priority. So let's say I've written 5 points that were great, and I've written 6 points that needed work. I cannot present 11 points in a 3-minute evaluation. I won't do justice to anybody. So what I do then is I make an assessment. Which point from the highlight was the point that absolutely made the speech stand out? It's like the best. We loved the speech because of that. So then I put 1, 2, 3. Likewise, in an AOI, this is what I do. Which area of improvement can I tell the speaker that will significantly make a difference to the speech? If they implement it, the speech will sound different, it will look different. So that then becomes my priorities on the AOI. Some will get missed, and you have to let go. Let go is an important art, even in evaluation, right? Some points can just be left out. Minor points, like I have seen evaluators say this also. I have 2 minor points as well. You had so as your crutch word. Our counter will cover it. You can relax. So some points can be let go. In a club meeting, you can always meet the speaker offline and say, hey, look, I covered these in my evaluation, but I had one additional point that you can consider. But always pick up your bigger chunks. The big blocks is what you want to cover in your evaluation. So have a template. Write concise notes and the additional. I do have a format of how you can take rough notes and then bring them together. I probably send it to Nikhil and he can pass it on. But it's very similar. So when I do note taking, I write down my rough notes and then I do something like I put 1, 2, 3 beside them to see which one I'm prioritizing, and I write my summary accordingly. That's pretty much it. That's simple, right? So that I'm going to send over Nikhil. Now let's talk about the actions afterwards. So arrange your points. Take that time to neatly arrange. Please have legible handwriting, something that you can also read. Because I have seen club members struggle sometimes. They go, I don't know what I've written. So that's why it's always nice to arrange your points, put them all together, write them simply, write your example. That's very important. Second thing, always demonstrate an area of improvement. I was in a club meeting last day and somebody said, Mr. Speaker, you had your aunt in the speech. She was one of the characters, but your aunt's voice sounded just like yours, so you could have done your aunt's voice. So this is a male speaker. The expectation is he does his aunt's voice, which is a female voice, and the evaluator went, you could have done a different voice, you could have done your aunt's voice, that would have given some effect. Great feedback. The evaluator didn't show it at all. Now I asked the evaluator later and said, no, I can't take out a female voice. Well, you can't. But you're expecting the speaker. That's not fair. If you can't demonstrate something, please don't expect the speaker to. They're not superheroes. You want the speaker to jump from the ceiling. Can you? No, right? So if you can, the speaker can. That's my understanding. That if I can show you that, oh, this is how it's done, then you know as a speaker that, oh yes, I could have done that. I could have paused there, I could have bended there, I could have had this voice there, I could have put this space. Always showcase. Showcase your areas of improvement. It's a little unfair to expect that the speaker will just understand because you thought that that's how it should be. So always demonstrate. Certain pieces you may not. Now, I get a question very often in my evaluation keynote session saying sometimes the feedback's on the content. Some people give feedback like your conclusion could have been more impactful. It felt a little abrupt. A very common feedback. The question is, how do you show it? Simple. Write a two-liner conclusion. While telling that area of improvement, you want to tell the speaker, you concluded this speech by saying this was your message. I felt the conclusion could have been a little stronger. How about this? And say the two lines. The speaker may not take your exact two lines, but they'll get a direction. What are you trying to mean by it could have been impactful? Because, let's say, so what is your name again?
Vijay.
Vijay, right. So let's say I told Vijay this impactful conclusion. Now Vijay in his head here is thinking, this is my 12th iteration of this speech. My conclusion is super impactful. What does she mean? Well, maybe I had a different take. I felt Vijay could have ended by a message that was for everybody. Now I have to show him, right? So always show. It's not fair. It's a little same at work. You know how everybody tells you, to be above and beyond, you just have to do above and beyond activities. And you're wondering, what? I do above and beyond every day. I beat 2 hours of traffic and come to work. Isn't that enough? So always showcase what's your opportunities. And of course, like I said, please write down the summary. The summary is very important to a speaker. So you want to make it like a bullet. The summary literally is like a bullet. You finish and you give a summary saying, here's it. It's like that hack. You know, sometimes we want to quickly prepare something and we want to quickly go check pointers. Your summary should serve like that to the speaker. Cool. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the last segment because Nikhil had told me stick to time. So I'm going to stick to time. Otherwise, he might not call me again. Okay. So I have some tips that I want to share with you, which I just figured being a speaker more than an evaluator. Because like a lot of you here said, right, when the evaluator doesn't give you valuable evaluation, you feel a little bit like, I worked on that speech for 2 weeks. I don't think I got enough. So these are some things I figured as a speaker. Please be specific, not generic in an evaluation. What do I mean? Some evaluations go like this. Mr. Speaker, your speech was wonderful. You started with your childhood story and then you moved on to when you went to school and then you spoke about your friends and then you spoke about your college, finally your work, and then you told us your challenge at work with your manager, how you overcame it, and finally what you're doing today. And that roughly, and timer's not timing me, but would have taken 30 seconds. You have 3 minutes. That 30 seconds is not useful to the speaker at all. They know their story. They know exactly what they spoke about. So don't repeat it. And don't be generic. Like, your voice modulation could have been better. How? Where? You could have reduced your pace. Exactly where? You could have had a pause. Where? I feel like sometimes we know this. So the minute you become a Toastmaster, you know, like 6 months into it, everybody knows voice modulation, body language, gesture, pause, pace, terms floating around everywhere. Sometimes we just loosely use it. No offense. I love the concept of evaluation in Toastmasters, but I just feel if you told the speaker, this is the sentence you used, if you had a pause here, this is what your sentence would look like, they immediately go like, oh, that makes sense. So show where. Don't be generic, be specific. Try to use the I language. This is very important because sometimes I watch evaluation, this is how you go. Shilpa, your speech was exceptional today. All of us here felt it was very humorous. Now, what's your name? Sorry?
Kishore.
Kishore. Kishore might think that was not humorous at all. How do I know? I can't speak on behalf of Kishore because I don't know what Kishore's thinking. I might just go, so what's your name again? Sorry. Sure. Mohan. So let's say I'm giving Mohan a feedback and I go like, Mohan, your speech brought all of us to tears. It was so emotional. Now, I'm sorry. Swapnil. Swapnil might think, oh, I didn't cry at all. I need glycerine for that. So don't speak on behalf of anybody. Everybody feels you could have improved this. Everybody feels you could have been louder. Everybody may not feel. speaker might be thinking, I heard that speech loud and clear. I don't want the speaker to be any louder. Don't speak on behalf. It's your opinion. Always keep that in mind, that evaluation is just your opinion. You might just walk out, so let's say I came here, gave Rajiv an evaluation, I walk out, and Rajiv might think, I didn't agree with the second point at all. I don't think that makes sense. Fair. It was my opinion. He may not agree. You watch a Rajnikant movie, you come out and say, oh, that scene I didn't like, the conclusion was rubbish. Rajnikant may not agree. He might say, my movie was a super hit. So that's how it is, right? It's your opinion, so keep it in the I language. I felt this. I think this. I feel you could have done this, right? The next one would be, avoid. Yes,
I
sir.
have one question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So if you are saying that in evaluation, my opinion.
Yeah.
So suppose if I'm evaluating someone and I give my opinion.
Hmm.
So it may be not a very good feedback for the person, and he'll say that he's all the time giving his opinion.
That-
So he will say that I don't want him to do my evaluation in future.
That's a little unfortunate for the speaker, to be honest, if someone's saying that. But evaluation is 100% your opinion. It's exactly what you felt. Because, look, the dynamics that works when you're an evaluator is simply this. Did I enjoy this part of the speech? Yes, highlight. No, areas of improvement. If I was the speaker, would I have said it like this? Yes, highlight. No, areas of... That's how mind is working. As simple as that. So it is totally your opinion, whether you liked it. If you were the speaker, would you do it? Now, if they feel, I'll just come to you and say, if they feel that I don't want them to evaluate again, that's a problem that can be discussed in the club and say, what is the problem? But you are always free to give your opinion. Point being, you give it in the right way. You give it in a way that they never feel I don't want his opinion. You have, and that is why I said don't be generic. If you are telling the speaker, oh, you never pause, your pace is too fast, they might think he's always telling this. But if you can show why is the pace fast, there's no way they'll feel that way. They'll immediately understand, okay, this is why Rajiv feels my pace is fast, so next time I've got to work on it. Right? So that's it. Yes.
So there could be personality biases, like if you're judging, right? Like you are a person and you think that way. So how do we make sure that the balance is there between your personality not overlapping?
Amazing. Exactly my next tip there. Strike a balance. That's what I was just about to say. So, how do we strike a balance that our personal biases don't overshadow our evaluation? So, there are two things, right? One is to be very articulate in that evaluation to say, I feel that this could be this, but you may beg to differ. That's one way. The second thing is, don't go with hard, negative, connotated notions. That means, I don't like this topic at all, so I'm not going to listen. This is not true. Do not go with such biases. I'm going to give you one example, right? And this might sound very sensitive. But I, as a girl child, was brought up very well. I've never seen discrimination at home. Not when I was brought up, not later in my family, my school, college. Of course, I've seen discrimination in the outside world, but not at family. It was solid. Now, if I go, and I always felt that that is because it was mutual. I was raised that way. Now, let's say I'm listening to a speech when somebody is talking about a discrimination at home. I cannot go like, I don't agree with it. My father never did that. Fathers are not like that. That's not fair. Because what you have to always, when you step into the evaluator role, just always think, this is what the speaker went through. That is why they're saying this. If you don't like the topic, if you don't like violence, if you don't like certain bits of it, if you have a different notion, you don't agree with what, let's say somebody here is telling, once you get married, you really have responsibilities, you have to make sacrifices. Personally, maybe I don't agree. I don't agree that you have to make sacrifices. I feel there's a better way. Great. That is the speaker's opinion. My point is not to judge their opinion. My work as an evaluator is to judge how they delivered that opinion. Was it told correctly? Was the content delivered correctly? Was their message landed correctly? My job is not to challenge that message. Your message itself is a disaster. No, that's not my work. That I can have an offline discussion, say, oh, I don't agree with you. So that's fine. As an evaluator, you're judging how they delivered their message. Did the message land? Was it clear? Because you're trying to make a better speaker. A speaker who can articulate any thought they have better. Right? Yes, Mohan.
Just to what you said, when
we are evaluating only, we should focus on their speech, not on the speaker.
Yeah, that's my last point there. So that's quite rightly timed.
Many
Yes.
people keep talking on the person, that you should have done, instead. Is it correct way or better?
Oh
to
yeah,
tell
you
speech?
no, you absolutely can. You absolutely can tell the speaker you could have. I personally don't use the word should have, because should have is telling what you did is wrong grammatically. You should have done this. Like my mother telling me you should have come early home, right?
Yeah.
But you can always say you could have.
Could have.
Could have is your choice.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, the choice is yours. So the right language is could have. Negative connotations is something I particularly have to very consciously avoid. You don't want to tell the speaker you did not do this and that was not right. That's probably not the right way. Sometimes I've seen evaluators phrase it this way, saying, "Oh, you came on this stage and when you opened, your voice was so low. That was not right." You don't know. That's the speaker's choice. You can't say that's not right. So avoid negative connotations. An alternate way of saying that is, when you started the speech, your voice felt a little low. Maybe next time you could try an energetic tone. Now I'm not telling you whether it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you an alternate that you could experiment. So avoid negative connotations. Did not do this. This is not right. The nots can be dropped from the evaluation, because that is none of my business. It's your choice, right? So of course avoid negative connotations. I think we did strike a balance. Last two things, don't overrun your time. Very important. You have 3 minutes and you have it for a reason. So please be mindful. A rule of thumb that you can use is your highlights could be the first. So you've got 2 to 3 minutes in an evaluation. So in the first about 90 seconds, which is 1.5 minutes, try to cover your highlights. Because the highlights are quick. As a speaker, we all know our strengths. We know things we are good at. You're just reiterating. So keep that quick. And then focus on the AOI. Spend more time on the areas of improvement, because that's what will really help the speaker. So the remaining 1.5 minutes can be your areas of improvement and summary. So when the green card comes up and if you're still doing highlights, that might be tricky. So try to finish your highlights before the green card comes up. Another thing is, please don't overshadow the speaker as an evaluator. I've seen some evaluations where the evaluator is not concerned at all about the pointers about the AOI. They just want to show they are a better speaker than the speaker themselves. They come in and they go all flawless and a lot of voice modulation, lot of gestures. None of it is required. If you see an evaluation's judging ballot, right, it has no marks on delivery. It's just got marks on your technique. Were you sympathetic? Were you empathetic? It's got no marks on voice modulation, on body language, on how you deliver. No, because it doesn't matter for an evaluation. So don't try to show the speaker, this is what you spoke, but I'm a better speaker. That's not required. Don't overshadow the speaker. They've put in a lot of effort. You're here to help them become a better speaker. So do it professionally, like an evaluator. That's important. That's really important, because I see this happening all the time, and I always remind myself, when you walk into an evaluation contest, you want to come out of that contest as the best evaluator, not the best speaker. There's a different contest. So don't overshadow the speaker. And very finally, lastly, like Mohan's already highlighted, evaluate the speech, not the speaker. I don't like this person. This person comes to every meeting late. Now today I'm the evaluator. I'm going to scold this person left, right. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. Your personal biases around this. You're the speaker's my best friend. I can't give any areas of improvement. Not fair. I probably give most of my strongest areas of improvement to my friend. Because you're evaluating the speech. Also don't come with notions like, oh, this speaker's always funny. They'll always do humorous speeches. This speaker always does motive. That's biased. You're putting a character to that speaker. You are judging that particular speech delivered by that speaker on that day. This helps in not being overcritic, and it also helps, say for example in my club, sometimes when I deliver speeches, there's a very new member who's going to evaluate. They walk into the room and they say, oh Arundhuti, how will I evaluate your speech? You've done so many speeches. And then I tell her, yeah, well I've done so many speeches, true statement, but I didn't do today's speech before. You are only evaluating my today's speech. You tell me what went well today, what could have been better today. It's like watching Shah Rukh Khan's movie. We still come out of the auditorium sometimes going, that conclusion I didn't like, that dance was out of place. He's doing movies from before our birth, right? We can still give feedback to them. Think of it just like that. Because you're giving feedback to that movie, not to Shah Shah Rukh Khan. You're talking about that movie. Similarly, evaluate the speech, not the speaker. I'm going to leave you with this. Your job as an evaluator is not to be perfect. So don't take that pressure. I need to do a perfect evaluation, grammatically correct, on time. Words should flow like pearl. No. Your job as an evaluator is not to be perfect. It's just to be helpful. Helpful to the speaker. If you give an evaluation and the speaker can take one thing, you've done your job. That's it. Perfect. That's my time, and I think I'm right on time. So, any questions happy to take? Yeah, any questions? Yes.
So you said that there are 3 parts, right? Making the evaluation. So the part 1 is before the speech, then
Yeah.
during the speech, and after the. So what are the